Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. The name is Harry Cruz and today we're going to be going through part 3 of the Forest of Doom, the fighting fantasy gamebook series in which you are the hero. Hope everyone's doing well. Apologies that I've not been releasing any videos over the past couple of weeks. I had a bit of a break, but back at it now. I'm ready to do part 3 of the Forest of Doom. So let's get straight into this and yeah, let's continue. So as you can see, where we left off last time, I'm going to open our person now. So we've actually got very good amounts of knowledge, equipment, money, all that stuff. We've got an enchanted sword which gives us +2 to our skill. We've got 14 skill, an unbelievable amount of skill, 18 out of 20 stamina, 11 out of 12 luck. We've got 10 provisions, potion of fortune, a potion of strength. We've got the knowledge of the hammer is being split into 2 parts. We've got to find the hammer and take it to Gillibrand, the leader of the village in the far north. 2 goblins have the parts, one of which we have found in the tomb that we just pillaged here. The snared man is also looking for a brother in the south, which is good to know. We've got also loads of equipment here: nose filters, potion of anti-poison, rope climbing, dragon's tooth, leather armor, net of entanglement, a warhammer head, which is what we got from the tomb, backpack, painted canvas, the map of the Darkwood Forest, which is where we are currently located, the potion of plant control, a boar's gold nose ring, potion of stillness, rod of water finding, and finally a headband of concentration with 30 gold, a sword and an enchanted sword at a piece. Our name is Lord Cruz, that's our character name for this book. So I'm going to get straight back into this now, alright? So I think we've just finished the tomb and we've auto saved here. So all we've got to do now is find the last piece of the hammer, which I believe is the handle. We've got the warhammer at the top. Just to quickly recap what the Forest of Doom is, it is the Fighting Fantasy Gamebook series, it's book 3, and our mission is to find 2 parts of a legendary hammer which is meant to unite the Dwarfs in the north. The goblins, but 2 goblins took 2 of the parts as treasure, and they split both parts in the forest, and we basically got to find them. The forest is incredibly dangerous, however, so we've had to remain really careful and cautious. And there has been a few creatures and a few dangers that we've already encountered, but we've done ever so well so far, and hopefully we'll find that last piece before our first playthrough ends. So without further ado, let's continue on the path then, and I'll read it together now. The path opens out into a small clearing. To your right you see a pile of branches, grass and pieces of rag, the lair of some large creatures. Among the debris and old bones scattered about, you catch sight of something glittering. If you want to look more closely, turn to 57, or if you wish to hurry north along the path, turn to 360. So, something shining, glittery. Why not? Let's look more closely, see what it is. Ah, okay. You walk over to investigate the lair, but are suddenly aware of a dark shadow being cast all about you. You hear a loud roar above you and look up to see a dragon-like creature with 2 legs and green, scaly skin flying down to its lair. A bolt of fire shoots from its mouth towards you. Lovely. Very intimidating creature there. We've got to test our luck, guys. So if we're lucky, the firebolt misses us and explodes by our feet. If we're unlucky, subsequently, we'll see what happens. And we are indeed lucky. We need a luck score of 11 or below, which is quite easy to do, so very lucky indeed. The creature landing in front of you is a wyvern and looks at you and opens its huge mouth to let out another burning roar. It is about 10 meters long and its thick scales look hard to penetrate with your sword. Do you possess a flute? We do not. The wyvern's long tail swishes from side to side and smoke curls up from its nostrils. You draw your sword and prepare to combat this fearsome monster. It's time to fight. So, very admirable skill. Luckily we've got that +2 magic sword on top, so we've got 14 skill and 18 stamina, whereas the wyvern, although it has very high skill, only has 10 and stamina 11 as well, which isn't as good as well. So, hit the wyvern just there, slashed it against its tail, and again. And again. so it's on 5 stamina, just under half health now. We've got a double 5 there to 10, so we've got a hit on it there. Oh, close that one, but we still hit it. And I think we've just killed the wife. Luckily our skill is very, very good. So we were still able to defeat it. We do well indeed. Ooh, okay. You walk around the motionless wyvern and start to rummage through its lair and surrounding debris. You find a gauntlet made of plate iron, a throwing knife, 10 gold pieces and a gold ring. You put the knife and the gold pieces in your backpack. Now, what will we do? Will you try on the gauntlet, try on the gold ring, or leave these items and head north along the path? Well, the gauntlet is quite a robust item to wear. It makes me think that it might be cursed of some kind, so I reckon gold ring. Slipping the ring onto your middle finger, you are gripped with agonising pain. Eventually the pain subsides, but you are unable to take off the ring. You are wearing a cursed ring of slowness, which will subtract 2 points from all future dice rolls when computing your own attack strength during combat. Damn it. If you wish to try on the gauntlet, 7374, or if you wish to ignore the gauntlet, you must walk north. Let's try it on. Okay, you slip on the gauntlet to your hand and take a hold of your sword. Slicing the air with it, you feel more than usually skilled with your weapon. You now possess a gauntlet of weapon skill, which adds 1 point to all future dice rolls. Well, that's good. When computing your own attack strength during combat, as long as you wear it. So overall, we've only lost 1 point, so that's not too bad, I guess. So let's continue. Oh, who's this then? Some sort of tribe. Walking along the narrow path, you suddenly hear the sharp crack of a twig breaking and the whisper of low voices. You draw your sword and wait anxiously with your back to a large oak tree. Then from behind the trees opposite you step 4 men and a woman dressed in green tunics, each looking menacing, and they stand with swords and axes in their hands. The young woman steps forward to tell you that you are trespassing on their territory and you must pay a levy of 5 objects from your backpack or face consequences. If you wish to give them what they want, turn to 279, or if you would rather spit on the ground in reply and fight them, turn to 104. That's a tricky one, guys. Tricky one, this. It depends what they determine as items, because we've got provisions, which might actually be enough. We can just give them 5 provisions and that would be absolutely fine. And we can give them gold pieces. I don't particularly want to give them... okay, so they... I reckon we should just give them 5 gold pieces. Because we got 30 gold anyway, so that's fine. The bandit woman takes the items from you and steps back to let you pass. You head north again and soon notice the trees begin to thin out on either side of the path. Eventually the path leads out to the trees into a ploughed field. You are out of Darkwood Forest. Okay. The path leads through the field to a stone bridge over a clear stream. Beyond the bridge are the small cottages and wooden huts of a village. A sign on the bridge reads Stonebridge. You cross the bridge and see 2 old dwarfs with long white beards standing in a cottage looking at you. Do you have the hammerhead and the handle with the letter G inscribed in them? We only have one of these. You have failed in your quest to help dwarfs. Being unable to face Gillibrand, their king, you decide to head east to find a place to rest after your perilous venture. But wait, perhaps you still want to continue searching. If you do turn to 98, well, let's try that. You decide that the best way to continue looking is to walk back around Darkwood Forest and pay a visit to Nostromo. As you begin the long walk, you are attacked by a large group of wild hillmen, probably the same group who attacked Big Leg and his party 2 days earlier. If you are lucky, you manage to run away from them without being hit by the rain of arrows which falls about you. If you are unlucky, you are showered by arrows and there's no way you will survive, so we've basically got to be lucky here. Which we are, which is good. You run for what seems like hours, stumbling through the changing landscape. Something doesn't feel right somehow, and you feel a thumping pain in your head. You stop falling to the ground and stare up to the blue sky and the clouds floating above. Your vision blurs and you suddenly see a familiar face staring down at you before you lose consciousness. Interesting. Oh wow, okay. As you can see, look, can you see, look here? 65 gold, map of Darkwood Forest, backpack leather armour, and everything. How interesting. It looks as though we have actually reset the game. Very fascinating. Very fascinating indeed. We still have bookmarks mined, so if you wanted to go back to our first playthrough here, then that's absolutely fine, we can do that as well. I've got a feeling that we actually found the last piece of the hammer, you know, because it was quite close towards the end. But let's read through this. You open your eyes. It is evening and you find yourself lying beneath a sheepskin blanket next to an open fire. A half-eaten rabbit that looks as though it was spit roasted lies on the ground nearby. This feels very familiar. There is a full moon and the light sparkles from the blade of your broadsword skewered into the ground by your side. You gaze at it, thinking about all the vile creatures you have killed in the last few days. You try to remember each one of them, but somehow you can't picture them in your mind. You're pretty sure that you killed some, however, yet it feels like memory of these encounters is fading. You know that these are strange land, inhabited by weird and loathsome beasts, goblins, trolls, and even dragons. Have you killed any recently? Maybe you're just tired and will need a good sleep. As the flame of your campfire gently dies, you begin to finally drift asleep, and images of fighting strange monsters flicker through your mind. Suddenly, in the bushes to your left, you hear a loud crack of a twig breaking under a clumsy foot. You leap and grab your sword from the ground. You stand motionless but alert, ready to pounce on your unseen adversary. Then you hear a groan, followed by the dull thud of a body falling to the ground. Is it a trap? Slowly you walk over to the bush where the noise is coming from and carefully pull back the branches. You look down to see a little old man with a grey bushy beard, his face contorted with pain. It seems very vaguely familiar, and you crouch down to remove the iron helmet covering his balding head, and notice two crossbow bolts protruding from the stomach of his plump, chainmail-clad torso. Picking him up, you carry him over to the fire and stir the dying embers into life. After covering him with the sheepskin blanket, you manage to get the old man to drink a little water. He coughs and moans. He sits up rigid, eyes staring fixedly ahead, and starts to shout. I'll get them, don't you fear, Gillibrand. Big Leg is coming to bring you the hammer. Oh yes, indeed I am, oh yes. The dwarf, whose name you presume is to be Big Leg, is obviously delirious from the poison-tipped bolts lodged in his stomach. You watch as he slumps down again to the ground, and then whisper his name in his ear. His eyes stare unblinkingly at you, and he again starts to shout. Ambush, look out, ambush! Ah, the hammer! Take the hammer to Gillibrand, save the dwarfs! His eyes half close and the pain seems to ease a little. As the delirium subsides, he speaks to you again in a low whisper. Help us, friend. Take the hammer to Gillibrand. Only the hammer will unite our people against the trolls. We were on our way to the Darkwood in search of the hammer, ambushed by the little people, others killed. The map in my pouch will take you to the home of Nostromo, the master mage of these parts. He has great magic for sale to protect you against the creatures of Darkwood. Take my gold, I beg you, to find the hammer and take it to Gillibrand, my lord of Stonebridge. You will be well rewarded. Big Leg opens his mouth to start another sentence, but nothing comes out except his last dying breath. You sit down and ponder Big Leg's words. Who is Gillibrand? Who is Nostromo? Their names feel familiar to you like some distant dream. What is all this fuss about this dwarfish hammer? You reach over to the still body of Big Leg and remove the pouch from the leather belt around his waist. Inside you find a number of gold pieces and a half-drawn map. Jingling the coins in your hand, you think of possible rewards that may await you for returning such a hammer to the village of Dwarfs. You decide to try and find the hammer in Darkwood Forest. It's been a few weeks since your last good battle, you think. And what is more, you are likely to be well paid for this one. With your mind made up, you settle down to sleep, having taken back the sheepskin blanket from poor Big Leg. In the morning, you bury the old dwarf and gather up your possessions. You examine the map, look up the sun, and find your bearings. Any strange thoughts you had last night about dreamlike adventures have now faded in whistling merrily. You head off south at a good pace, eager to meet this man Nostromo and see what he has to offer. Now turn over. How interesting. So, if we don't get the hammer pieces at the end, both of them, we have the option to restart the entire book. And notice there was a subtle difference as well in, well, for one thing, we've still got some of our gold as well. But our items have been taken completely, bar our gold. And there's a few bits and pieces too, like in narrative saying like last good battle you think, implying that we actually did fight those creatures. But actually, in reality, we don't actually remember this at all, which is very fascinating indeed. The question is now though, is how do we proceed here? Do we continue with extra money to buy spells, or do we go back to the book? Do we do a bookmark? Interesting. Much to ponder. I will think on it a little bit, and I will come back to you all in a little while, and just to see what to do really, what to do in this circumstance. Whether we go back to bookmarks, or whether we actually continue on this playthrough, I guess, the second playthrough, because I didn't realise that it would auto play for this, which is interesting. So bear with me 1 second and I will see what to do, what to think about. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to kind of let you know that I've decided that we're actually going to be continuing this as a second playthrough now, okay? Obviously there are the bookmarks and stuff, but I actually think it'd be really nice, now we've got a bit of extra money too from our previous playthrough, to actually buy some items and to go from there, alright? So let's just, without further ado, let's continue. Let's see if we can solve this once and for all. I'm pretty confident we got the last piece, because when we went into the tomb, we shortly after got to the end of the forest, which makes me think that perhaps instead of going left at the big oak tree at the start, we should go right instead. So maybe that's where we didn't find the other one. So alright then, so let's continue then. Your walk to Nostromo's takes a little over half a day, and you arrive at his stone tower, dirty and hungry. As the tower is set back on the edge of Darkwood Forest, some 50 metres from the path you have been following, it is difficult to find. Finally, you walk up to the huge oak door, somewhat relieved to find that it does exist and that Big Leg had not been speaking mildly in his delirium. A large brass bell and gong hang from the stone archway. As you ring the bell, a shiver runs down your spine, and you realise that the loud bong invades a deep silence, which you had not noticed before. There are no sounds of birds or animals to be heard. You wait anxiously at the door and hear slow footsteps descending the stairs from the tower above. A small wooden slot in the door slides, and two eyes appear and examine you. "Well, who are you?" demands a grumpy voice through the hole. You answer that you are an adventurer in search of the Master Mage Nostromo, intending to purchase magical items from him to combat the creatures of Darkwood Forest. "Oh, well, in that case, if you're interested in buying some of my merchandise, you'd better come up. I am Nostromo." He then turns and slowly climbs the stone stairs. And we will follow him up the stairs, because I think attacking him would be probably really silly. Okay, here we go. You follow the huffing and puffing old man in his tattered robes up the spiral staircase to a large room at the top of the tower. Shelves, cupboards and cabinets line the walls, all full of bottles, jars, weapons, armour and all manner of strange artefacts. Nostromo shuffles past the general clutter and slumps down in an old oak chair. He reaches into his top pocket and pulls out a fragile pair of gold-rimmed spectacles. Placing these on his nose, he picks up a piece of slate and chalk from the table to his next to his chair and begins to write frantically. He then hands you the slate. Okay, so here is the slate of stuff. He tells you that all the instructions for use are written clearly on the labels attached to the items, together with a suggested use. He sighs and tells you that only unfortunately the magic in the items only works once, but they are the best you can buy for the money. Nostromo then asks you the reason for the purchase of the items, and you tell him your story and your decision to continue the quest of the luckless Big Leg. "Ah yes, Nostromo says slowly, rubbing his chin. I heard that the good dwarves of Stonebridge had lost their fabled warhammer. Without it, their king is unable to arouse his people, despite the fact that his hill trolls threaten his village. Rumour has it that an envious king of another village of dwarfs sent an eagle to Stonebridge to steal this very hammer, which it managed to do. But as it flew over Darkwood, it was attacked by deathhawks, and the hammer dropped into the forest and was lost. Apparently 2 forest goblins found this hammer, but could not decide who was to keep it. They wrestled for hours, but gave up. Then they discovered the handle unscrewed from the head, and the argument was settled. One kept the head, one kept the handle. And they parted, each happy with his new treasure. Who knows if they still have them? So I'm afraid your problems are doubled. I can tell you that the head is made of bronze, and the handle is made of polished ebony. Both head and handle have the letter G inscribed on them. Your task is not an easy one, however. Good luck. You thank Nostromo and leave the room by the spiral staircase, but before that, we're going to be looking at the potions, etc., and the items. We've got 65 gold to spend, so we've got quite a bit of money to spend on this. So I reckon we should get nose filters, garlic buds, glove of missile dexterity, boots of leaping, rope of climbing, holy water. Now, we didn't really know rod of water finding at all, did we? So I reckon we should leave that for now. Net of entanglements, perhaps, would be quite a good one. What was our money on at the moment? 47, so plenty of money, really. Okay, ring of light. What about a headband of concentration? That would be good. Fire capsules. Armband of strength was very important as well against that creature, which when we got the dust of levitation, which was very key to get in the last piece. So we're gonna have to go to that place eventually. Potion of stillness, potion of plant control, potion of anti-poison, potion of insect control, potion of healing. I think that's everything. I don't think we need really much more than that, to be honest. Yeah, I think we're all done. We've got plenty of gold too, so let's continue then. Now I reckon here we should go east instead, and then we'll see kind of what happens after this. Outside in the bright light you notice the dead quietness once again. A narrow path leads northwards from the tall grass surrounding Nostromo's tower in the dense undergrowth of Darkwood Forest. In a few strides you are surrounded by the dark and tangled forest stones. A knotted roots seem to hide in the shadows, and you can almost believe that they are trying to trip you up. The light fades quickly, and the air becomes moist and unpleasant. Deeper and deeper you go into the gloom. Eventually the path forks on either side of a huge old oak tree. To go west, turn to 289, or to go east, turn to 160. Well, we went west before, and it went well, because we had to go to that wrestler anyway and beat him, using the armband of strength, which in turn got us a little levitation stuff to get the second piece. So we're going to have to go west eventually, but I reckon if we go east first, we might find something else. Ah, here we go. The narrow path continues to cut its way through the tangled forest. Strange animal cries and noises echo through the trees. At last, the path widens to approximately a metre across. Soon you arrive at a moss-covered wooden signpost, on which sits a large crow. The arms of the signpost read north and east, as you can see here from this very uniquely drawn signpost. I quite like that design there. Just as you are heading which way to just as you're deciding which way to continue, you hear the words, "Good afternoon." You look up in the direction of the voice and see the crow looking down at you inquisitively. "Good afternoon," you reply slowly, feeling a little foolish. The crow speaks again, asking which way you are headed. You reply that you are looking for two goblins, small, sinewy creatures with brown, scaly skin. "1 gold piece will buy my advice," states the crow confidently. Will you pay the crow for its advice, ignore the crow and turn north, or ignore the crow once again and carry on eastwards? Very fascinating. Well, the crow seems friendly enough. Maybe we should take the crow's advice and see what happens here. So notice now, we've went west before. Now, even going east, we've now got north and east as an option here. Let's buy his advice. If he's a crow, he'll be able to fly around and probably see goblins, perhaps. Let's buy the advice. We've got 1 gold piece to spare. Okay. You put the gold piece on top of the signpost as requested by the crow, after which it says, "Go north." You ask the crow why it needs gold pieces, and it replies that it needs 30 gold pieces to pay Nostromo to turn it back into a human again. Wow. You bid the crow farewell. If you want to go north as advised by the crow, turn to 8. If you'd rather continue eastwards, turn to 239. Well, now we know that Nostromo turned him into a creature and he wants to actually go back to being human again. It sounds as though that we should probably trust him, because why would he give false evidence and information? There's no reason for it. So I reckon north is the right way to go. Walking along the path, you hear footsteps and arguing voices ahead of you. If you wish to meet their owners, turn to 317. If you would rather hide into the bushes and let them walk by, turn to 392. Well, I think I'm going to leave this entry for the time being here then, alright? So we did get the second piece quite easily in our last part. However, it looks as though we got the last piece before completing the book. But we now know kind of the route we have to take in order to get to the second piece. We just got to find the first one now, somewhere, which I reckon is going to be possibly on this north path here, if we're lucky. Because we have to, like I said, get the levitation dust from the Wrestler, but to get the Wrestler, to beat the Wrestler, we have to have the armband of strength, which we've got. So, and to get to there, we have to go west and fully west of that. So, I reckon if we go north, it would make sense. We would have to go west at some point to get there. So, hopefully, we'll find this first piece. Once we do, next part might even be the finale. We might even be able to get through this quite quickly, as we know the route. So, we just got to find the first piece, guys. Once the hammer's done, and that's it, we've won. Alright? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this YouTube video. Please like and subscribe. This it would really help the channel in its growth. I'm going to hopefully do more Final Fantasy books in future, as well as a few other projects I've got prepared. I do motivational speeches, self-help videos, and motivational videos too, for young people and other geeks and stuff as well. So please subscribe, like it if you liked it, obviously, and yeah, you take care of yourself, and thank you for joining me today. Take care. Bye.